The research dome over the surface of Kepler 117c wasn't supposed to lock down. Not unless there was a Class 3 security breach or a biohazard incident. So when the steel shutters slammed down with a thunderous clunk and the automated lights flickered to red, James Holden knew something had gone terribly wrong. "This isn't protocol," he muttered, slapping the intercom panel. "Nothing. Dead. Great." He was a systems technician, not a soldier. Sure, he had clearance to be in the dome, maintaining the terrarium sensors, atmospheric filters, and occasionally arguing with the station's AI over inconsistent heat readings. But none of that prepared him for a complete lockdown. His boots echoed on the polymer flooring as he moved through Corridor 7, leading toward the greenhouse wing. The emergency lights painted the walls in a rotating dance of crimson and shadow, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Status report," he called again. The dome's voice assistant, usually chipper, borderline annoying, was silent. James frowned. That meant either a full core reboot was in progress, or someone had overridden her manually. Manual override. That meant someone was scared. Or desperate. He tightened his grip on the tool pouch slung over his shoulder and moved faster. The greenhouse was unusually warm. Humidity curled around him like a second skin, thick and cloying. He heard the soft whir of the atmospheric controls compensating for a lack of oxygenation on the outer modules. Nothing seemed damaged at first glance. And then he noticed movement near the botanical life support processor. At first, it looked like a shifting shadow. A glitch in the light. Then it moved again, a smooth, predatory flow. He stepped forward cautiously, heart thudding. "Hello." A figure darted back. Not human. Slender and tall, crouched low like a wild animal. Skin a translucent shade of blue with faint violet marbling, glowing softly with bioluminescent pulses. Her limbs were longer than any human's, her eyes slitted like a cat's but deeper, more intelligent. She turned her head toward him with a jerk. Her eyes locked with his. "Whoa, whoa," he raised both hands. "I'm not gonna hurt you." She didn't move. Her breathing was shallow, almost imperceptible. "You understand me?" he asked gently. Her head tilted. She watched him with curiosity. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft and musical, her words accented and halting. "You are Halden." He blinked. "Yeah. James Holden." "Who are you?" "I am called Venari." The name clicked like a warning in his mind. There had been rumors. Secret transmissions intercepted from the upper decks. A classified project, alien contact. One subject. Female. Not a diplomat. A specimen. James stared at her. "You were the one they brought in from the outpost, weren't you? The one they said was too dangerous for open exposure." She looked down. Her hands curled around her knees, defensive. "I ran. They wished to dissect. To break my skin." His heart sank. Whatever had been whispered in the break room, whatever bravado the xenobiologist strutted around with, this wasn't a monster. She was scared. And now she was hiding here. And somehow, the facility had gone into lockdown while she was out of containment. He exhaled. "Venari, I'm not part of that team. I fix broken cables, water lines, power systems. I'm not one of them." She looked at him, studying his face. "You smell different," she whispered. He tried not to laugh. "Yeah. That's probably the coolant I spilled on myself 2 hours ago." Venari blinked, then tilted her head slightly. It was a surprisingly human gesture. He took off his tool pouch and slowly sat on the floor, palms up. "We should stay calm. No one knows we're here. And until we figure out what triggered the lockdown, we might be stuck for a while." She inched closer. Only a little. But enough to show she was listening. James shifted his weight slightly, trying to get more comfortable. So, what's your story? Where are you from? Venari looked at him for a long time. Then she spoke. A place your maps do not mark. My people travel between stars, rarely resting. I was sent to observe. Learn. But they caught me when I wandered too close. You mean the science team? She nodded. Her gaze drifted to the domed ceiling, as if seeing through it to the sky beyond. They were curious. Then frightened. Then cruel. James had seen the autopsy tables. The sterilization protocols. He shuddered. I'm sorry. You did not harm me, she said simply. He smiled faintly. Still, I wish I could say more. She paused. Then, you already have. A soft buzz interrupted the silence. The emergency lights flickered. James looked toward the greenhouse doors. Something heavy moved outside. Venari stiffened. They send machines. He stood quickly, motioning her behind the workbench. Stay down. Whatever it is, it doesn't know we're in here yet. A scraping noise. Then a metallic hiss. From a panel near the entrance, a small robotic arm extended, a security drone. Not armed, but equipped with motion scanners and audio feeds. James moved forward, heart pounding, and yanked a maintenance cable from the wall. Sparks flew. The drone twitched. He slammed the cable down again. The drone jerked, spasmed, then went limp. Venari stood slowly. You fight with no weapons. He wiped his forehead. I fight with what I have. She regarded him curiously. Why help me? He didn't answer right away. Finally, because you didn't deserve what they did. Because I couldn't live with myself if I just walked away. A silence passed between them. Not uncomfortable. Just, full. Venari stepped closer. Her hand hovered, uncertain. Then she touched his wrist gently. Her skin was cool. Smooth. Her touch sent a jolt up his arm. Then we must survive. Together, she said. James nodded. And outside, the scraping started again. Whatever was moving out there wasn't a drone this time. It was heavier. And it was looking for her. The scraping outside intensified, a low, grinding metal-on-metal groan that sent a chill crawling up James Holden's spine. He crouched beside Venari, both of them hidden behind a cluster of oversized ferns near the botanical workstation. The emergency lights flickered red again, casting her glowing skin in eerie contrast to the shadows. That doesn't sound like a drone, James whispered. Venari's slitted eyes narrowed. It is not. They sent a mech. James felt his heart sink. Mechs weren't for reconnaissance. They were enforcement units, capable of disabling doors, tracking heat signatures, and, if authorized, eliminating threats. The question now was, who authorized it? We need to move, he said. If it scans in here, we're fried. Venari nodded once. She moved like flowing water, silent, deliberate. James followed, slipping past the lab benches and towering hydroponic pods toward the back service tunnel. The door was sealed. James tapped the emergency release. No power. He yanked a panel off the wall, revealing a bundle of wires and a backup fuse box. Keep watch, he said, and began rerouting current manually. Venari positioned herself between him and the hallway. She crouched low, hand resting near her ankle where a blade, alien in design, was strapped. Where did you get that? He asked, half distracted. I made it, she answered. The panel sparked. The emergency lock clicked. Got it. The door slid open halfway before jamming on debris. James shoved with his shoulder. Venari helped. Together they squeezed through. The tunnel was pitch black. James flicked on his portable light. Maintenance corridors run to the dome's core, he whispered. If we can get to sub-level 3, I might be able to reboot the AI and override the lockdown. What happens if we cannot? James hesitated. Then we hide. But they'll keep sending units until they find you. And once they do. She didn't need him to finish the sentence. They moved quickly, James in the lead, Venari behind. The corridors were narrow, filled with the scent of coolant and old wiring. A maintenance drone, inactive, hung from the ceiling like a sleeping bat. They reached the first junction when Venari froze. Wait. James halted. What is it? She stepped to the side panel and pressed her palm against the wall. Her skin pulsed faintly. They track by vibration and heat. They have already entered the greenhouse. Then we don't have much time. Come on. Sub-level 3 was worse than James remembered. The main power conduits were frayed. Emergency systems overloaded. The AI hub, a large cylindrical chamber wrapped in blinking lights, was dead. He stared at it in disbelief. No. Venari walked up beside him, examining the equipment. Can it be revived? I'd need at least 30 minutes and a fresh microcore. But even if I get her running, she might be locked out of upper-tier access. Whoever initiated the lockdown used level 1 clearance. That means command level override. Then you must become command, she said simply. James chuckled dryly. If only it worked like that. Venari looked around. What is the alternative? He stared at the hub. Thought quickly. The AI might be down, but there's a secondary relay in the communication nexus. If I can reach it, I might be able to send a broadcast out. Let someone know we're trapped. Would they help? James hesitated. Some would. Maybe. Venari's gaze softened. You are not like them. He met her eyes. Neither are you. Something sparked in the quiet between them. A closeness formed not just from circumstance, but understanding. He looked away before it could deepen. They didn't have time. Let's move. The comm nexus was 3 levels up. The route was blocked by collapsed scaffolding and a jammed bulkhead. James had to crawl through narrow ventilation shafts, Venari following gracefully behind. They reached the nexus an hour later. It was trashed. Sparks flew from shattered consoles. A small fire smoldered in the corner. James swore. Venari knelt beside a console. Her fingers grazed the burnt edge. They feared the truth getting out. Looks like someone destroyed it intentionally. Then your plan? James pulled open a locker. Inside, a single emergency beacon sat untouched. He grinned. Plan B. Venari tilted her head. This is good. If we activate it, someone from orbit might catch the signal. It's a long shot, but better than nothing. He began calibrating the beacon, fingers flying. Behind them, the air shifted. Venari spun. A mech stepped through the ruined doorway. 8 feet tall. Gleaming. R-mounted cannon powered and ready. Run! James shouted. They dove behind the bulkhead as the cannon fired. The floor erupted in sparks and smoke. James grabbed the beacon and scrambled. Venari hurled a piece of the console at the mech, buying a moment. Go! They dashed into the hallway. James could hear the mech pursuing. This way. They slid into another corridor, maintenance level. A ladder shaft waited ahead. James shoved Venari up. Climb. He followed, beacon clutched in his teeth. The mech fired again, missing them by inches. They reached the top. James sealed the hatch behind them. Panting, they collapsed. You still have the beacon? Venari asked. James held it up. Yeah. And it's working. A faint green light blinked. Someone will hear us. Venari looked at him, her hand brushing his. You are brave, Halden. He met her gaze. I just didn't want to die alone. She smiled, a small, alien thing, but genuine. They sat there, side by side, while the dome trembled around them. Hope, flickering like the emergency light, still burned. The emergency beacon blinked its pale green light, steady and unassuming against the backdrop of chaos. James Halden sat on the cold steel floor, back against the ladder shaft, every muscle aching from the climb and adrenaline crash. Beside him, Venari's breathing had slowed into a calm rhythm, though her eyes remained open, watchful. Do you think it will work? She asked. James glanced at the beacon, then up at the cracked ceiling of the auxiliary control platform. It's broadcasting. That's all I can guarantee. Whether someone's listening, I don't know. Venari folded her arms around her knees. Her skin still shimmered faintly in the emergency lighting, bioluminescent pulses echoing her heart rate. Where will they take you, if they come? Me? Probably just debriefed, maybe yelled at. You. James hesitated, then finished, they'll want to take you again. Dissect you, like you said. Study you like a threat. And you still call this species intelligent, she said softly. James laughed bitterly. We have our moments. But we're not great with fear. Especially of the unknown. Silence settled between them. Then a mechanical hum echoed through the ceiling. It was faint but growing. Mech again? Venari asked, standing quickly. James pressed his ear to a floor vent. No. That's something else. A low vibration ran through the walls. Then, an unmistakable sound, the rotating whir of a shuttle's atmospheric stabilizers. He bolted upright. A ship. Someone's answering the beacon. Venari stood still, uncertain. What if it is not an ally? James hesitated. Then we don't let them find us first. Come on. I know a way up. Navigating back through the torn infrastructure was worse this time. The mech's trail of destruction had collapsed entire junctions. The power grid was unstable. Ventilation systems sputtered like dying lungs. But James knew the dome's skeleton. He led them through lift shafts, bypassed broken stairwells, and finally emerged into the observatory chamber, an old, rarely used room with a transparent dome roof designed for planetary scans. From here, they could see the shuttle descending. Its landing lights cut through the dense storm outside, bright and golden. It's real, James murmured. Venari stared in silence. Then we must choose. James turned to her. Choose. Whether to trust them. Whether to leave this place. Whether to stay together. That last sentence hit harder than it should have. He swallowed. I don't know what comes next. But I'm not leaving you here. She stepped closer. Then I follow. They descended through the northern airlock access, entering the outer dome plaza where the shuttle had landed. The wind howled through broken panels. James tightened his grip on the beacon, ready to wave it down. The shuttle door opened. Two figures stepped out in black armor, not security personnel. Not from the science team. Mercs, James whispered. Venari tensed. Worse than soldiers. James raised both hands. Hey. We activated the emergency beacon. We're survivors. One of the mercenaries stepped forward. Helmeted. Armed. His voice crackled through the calm. Halden, James. Technician. You're the one who sent the signal. Yes. We've been trapped since the lockdown. There's. The merc snapped his fingers. Two drones floated forward. Where is the specimen? James clenched his jaw. She has a name. Venari stepped beside him. The other merc raised a scanner. We'll be taking her into custody. You're free to leave. No. You're not taking her anywhere. The first merc stepped forward. That's not your call. You're not authorized to interfere. James reached into his coat and pulled out a backup microcore, the one he'd rigged to the beacon. He held it over his head. You want her, you'll have to take me too. The mercs hesitated. Venari whispered, they will kill you. Maybe, James replied. But I'm done running. A pause. Then. Stand down, the first merc finally said into his comm. Behind them, the shuttle lights dimmed. Another figure appeared, taller, wearing a civilian coat. That's enough, the new figure called. We're not here to capture. We're here to evacuate. James blinked. Who are you? The man stepped forward. Middle-aged. Thin glasses. Tired eyes. Dr. Elsman. Exodiplomacy. You made quite a splash with that signal. We've been trying to reach this dome for weeks. The science team cut all access. We didn't know you were in here. Venari narrowed her eyes. You knew of me. We knew of the project. But not the truth. Not until now. James stepped in. Then prove it. Give her asylum. Dr. Elsman nodded slowly. She's under my protection. And yours, apparently. If you vouch for her, I'll get her off this planet. Safely. James turned to Venari. Her eyes shimmered. Do you trust him? She asked. James didn't answer right away. He looked at Dr. Elsman. You have one chance. One. Dr. Elsman smiled faintly. Understood. Venari stepped forward. Slowly. Her hand brushed James's one more time. Together, they walked into the shuttle. Behind them, the dome groaned and cracked, the mech systems finally overloading from the power feedback James had triggered in the beacon relay. As the shuttle lifted into the sky, the dome of Kepler 117c grew smaller. But something larger began to grow, between two souls who had found each other in the worst of places. In the cold grip of fear, they'd found warmth. In captivity, they'd found freedom. And in the strangest night of their lives, they'd found something that neither science nor war could ever explain. Hope. The shuttle hummed through the atmosphere, leaving behind the ravaged dome and the smoldering remains of a failed experiment in secrecy. James sat in the passenger bay, his hand resting near Venari's, not quite touching. Every time the ship jostled, their fingers brushed. Each time, he felt that flicker again, not fear, not adrenaline. Something quieter, more dangerous. Hope. Dr. Elsman stood near the cockpit, conferring with the pilot. Two of the mercs remained stationed at the rear, weapons slung but not raised. Still, James didn't trust them. Venari's posture mirrored his tension, still, silent, but her slitted eyes never stopped watching. We'll reach the orbital platform in 20 minutes, Elsman said, walking back toward them. Once docked, we can begin the asylum proceedings. James gave him a long look. And what happens if the council overrules you? They won't. Not this time. Too many eyes on this now. Venari tilted her head. Your people value exposure more than truth. Elsman didn't flinch. Sometimes that's the only way to get the truth to matter. James respected that answer more than he expected. As they ascended into the stratosphere, the clouds parted to reveal the orbital platform above Kepler 117c. It was a massive ring station with open docking bays glowing gold and blue against the black. They were ushered through security quickly, the mercs peeled away, replaced by station officials in white and gray uniforms. There were no restraints, no force. But James knew better than to mistake that for freedom. Venari was given a medical suite to rest in while the formal inquiry began. James was taken to a sterile observation room lined with holoscreens and one-way glass. The first hour passed in silence. The second brought questions. A tall woman in a silver badge entered. Technician Holden. My name is Marin Voss, Interstellar Ethics Council. I'll be reviewing your case. James crossed his arms. Then I hope you brought your listening ears. She smirked faintly. We reviewed the logs. Your emergency beacon included neural data, dome schematics, and partial video from your head cam. That's right. You do realize this constitutes an information leak under the Kepler Accords? Only if the information is still classified. Voss sat. You risked a lot to protect her. James leaned forward. She's not a specimen. She's not an experiment. She's a person. She speaks 5 languages. She made a blade out of lab scrap. She knows our science better than half the staff in that dome. You formed a bond with her. Damn right. Romantic? He paused, then answered honestly. It wasn't the plan. Voss studied him. We have a moral crisis on our hands, Holden. What you found down there, what they were doing, will bring down several oversight boards. Your testimony will be critical. Only if she walks free. Voss stood. We'll see. Meanwhile, Venari lay on a bio bed, restrained not by cuffs, but by walls she could not touch. The glass of the chamber showed no reflections. The sterile light overhead didn't pulse, didn't flicker. It felt wrong. A young medic stepped in, scanning her vitals. Any discomfort? Only your eyes, she said. He blinked. My eyes? They stare like scalpel blades. He stepped back, flustered. Sorry. I'll finish quickly. Venari sighed. Do not fear me. I have had enough of that. The door hissed open. Dr. Elsven entered, waving off the medic. Venari, he said gently. We are preparing your testimony. You will speak before the Ethics Council within 24 hours. Will they listen? They're obligated to. But listening is not the same as believing. Venari's gaze turned inward. I have been caged before. I have danced the script they write. You won't be alone this time. No. This time, I have him. Elsven hesitated. That's exactly why they'll doubt you. The hearing was held in a high-arched chamber aboard the platform's administrative wing. Transparent walls revealed the stars beyond. Council members sat in a semicircle of elevated thrones, each casting their judgment from above. James and Venari stood side by side on the lower platform. Voss acted as moderator. She began the record. Subject, Venari, identified as sapient alien life form recovered from unauthorized experimentation within Dome 4 of Kepler, 117c. Witness, James Holden, Senior Maintenance Technician. The questions came in waves. How long was she held in Dome 4? What evidence do you have of her mistreatment? Did she consent to any procedures? What is the nature of your relationship? James answered everything, his voice steady. When Venari was asked to speak, she told them of her capture. Of awakening in a metal coffin. Of wires in her veins. Of watching human scientists debate whether she could feel pain. Gasps rippled through the chamber. One counselor asked, and this James, he was kind. He listened. That was enough to save me. James glanced at her. Her voice didn't tremble once. Another counselor leaned forward. And what do you seek now, Venari? She paused. Not vengeance. Not a stage. Only sanctuary. And, if it is permitted, to remain beside the one who taught me I was more than data. That silenced even the murmurs. The council deliberated for 3 hours. James sat alone in a waiting room, staring at the ceiling. Venari returned quietly and sat beside him. Whatever happens, she said, you gave me something they could not take. He turned. What? A name. The chamber door opened. Voss entered, her expression unreadable. The council has reached a decision. They stood. Voss took a breath. Venari is to be granted protected status under the Interstellar Species Convention. She will be released from custody, provided immediate asylum, and given choice over her planetary residency. James exhaled hard. Venari blinked slowly. And James? Voss smiled faintly. He's been offered a reassignment. Diplomatic liaison. If he accepts. James looked at Venari. Only if it's somewhere warm. She tilted her head. And quiet. And quiet, he agreed. She took his hand. They walked out of the hearing chamber together, not as subject and savior, but as something new. Something neither side quite had a word for yet. But it didn't matter. Some truths don't need names. Some stories write themselves across starlight. And some people, no matter how different, find each other in the dark, and choose to stay. Venari watched as the shuttle descended toward the green-blue world below. It was Earth-like, though not Earth, a terraformed colony world called Virella, orbiting a G-type star, distant from the political firestorm now erupting around Kepler 117c. The council had decided. The council had spoken. And now the future waited. Beside her, James adjusted the strap on his duffel bag. The crisp uniform of a liaison officer still looked odd on him. Too clean, too structured. But Venari had come to understand that humans liked symbols. They wore them like armor. She turned to him. Does it feel real yet? James gave her a half-smile. Only when I see your reflection in the viewport. Then I remember I didn't dream any of it. The shuttle landed with a soft thud. The hatch opened, revealing a platform surrounded by low-lying buildings and green hills beyond. A breeze swept in, carrying the scent of pine and distant sea salt. Venari stepped forward. Smells like freedom. They exited together. Their assigned residence was modest, a two-room habitat on the outskirts of the colony. But it was enough. It had power, water, and no security cameras. Venari spent the first hour walking barefoot on the grass outside. James just watched her. She returned with a tiny purple flower in hand. This planet grows strange things. Beautiful, but strange. You get used to it, James said. I hope not. They ate dinner quietly. The night sky lit with unfamiliar constellations, and for the first time since escaping the dome, James let his shoulders truly relax. Venari sat across from him, legs folded beneath her, sipping a nutrient drink. Her silvery blue skin shimmered in the low light. You know, James said, there's a whole generation of people who will want to know your story. She tilted her head. And you think I will tell it? Won't you? Perhaps. But only if they ask for more than the spectacle. James raised his glass. To more than the spectacle. She clinked hers gently against his. 2 weeks passed. News reports flared with scandal, multiple resignations, criminal charges, an inquiry into Project Horizon. Dome 4 was dismantled and placed under interstellar quarantine. James's testimony became part of an educational holodoc. Venari, however, remained silent. She declined interviews, ignored diplomats. Only one visitor she allowed, Dr. Elsman. He arrived on the third week, bearing a portable terminal and a half-smile. Still avoiding the spotlight? Venari nodded. The light shows scars too clearly. He looked around the small home. You seem comfortable. I am learning peace. James teaches it well. And you? He turned to James. Still playing liaison? James shrugged. Only for her. Elsman smirked. The council approved her relocation to Virella under one condition, she enroll in a scientific residency. They want to study her voluntarily. Venari raised an eyebrow. To poke again, but with polite gloves. To learn, Elsven corrected. And maybe let you teach. You have knowledge of quantum fields we haven't dreamed of. Venari considered. And if I refuse? Then you live quietly. No strings. She looked at James. He gave no answer, only a soft nod. The choice was hers. She agreed. The following month, she joined the Varela Research Collective. There were stumbles, cultural divides, communication glitches, but she persisted. Her methods baffled her colleagues at first. She spoke of gravitational harmonics like music, of dark matter as shadowplay. But then, her theories began to predict anomalies. The data confirmed her. Soon, they stopped doubting. James visited her lab often. Sometimes just to bring tea. Sometimes to watch her argue circles around the colony's top physicist. You're becoming famous, he teased. Venari rolled her eyes. I was famous before. As a thing. This time, I will choose the melody. And yet, it was not always easy. There were stares. Murmurs. An offhand comment once, sleeps with the alien, does he? James wanted to punch the man. Venari stopped him. They do not know better, she said. But you do. Let that be enough. But it wasn't always. Some nights James lay awake, wondering if he had dragged her from one kind of cage into another. She knew. She always knew. This world is not perfect, she whispered once, curling beside him beneath the soft sheets. But you let me choose it. That is the difference. Seasons changed. The hills bloomed. Children grew familiar with Venari's face. They stopped staring. They asked questions instead. She taught a small science class every fortnight. Her favorite student was a boy named Callan who once asked, "Does your planet have trees?" She said, "Not anymore. But I remember them. Can you draw one?" She did. He framed it. James watched from the doorway that day, hand resting on the frame. She looked up at him and smiled. You see, she whispered. Not a weapon. Not a prisoner. Just someone who remembers trees. One night, on the colony's highest hill, they sat under a blanket and looked at the stars. James pointed upward. That bright one? That's Earth. Where I was born. Will you go back? He shook his head. I found home already. Venari looked at him. I once thought I would die in a cage, she said. Now I hope I live long enough to see children play in trees I plant myself. He took her hand. No more was said. In that silence, under 1,000 strange stars, they shared a truth deeper than any vow. Not rescued. Not owned. Chosen. Together.